Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. One should install the physical forms of the Lord, and with the chanting of the mantra, one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties of foodstuffs exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by authorities. But this should be done in consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences. Purport. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya is known as the Dwadasakshara mantra. This mantra is chanted by Vaishnava devotees, and it begins with pranava or omkar. There is an injunction that those who are not brahmanas cannot pronounce the pranava mantra. But Dhruva Maharaj was born a Kshatriya. He had once admitted before Narada Muni that as a Kshatriya he was unable to accept Narada's instructions of renunciation and mental equilibrium, which are the concern of a brahmana. Still, although not a brahmana but a Kshatriya, Dhruva was allowed, on the authority of Narada, to pronounce the pranava omkar. This is very significant. Especially in India, the caste brahmanas object greatly when persons from other castes who are not born in brahmana families recite this pranava mantra. But here is tacit proof that if a person accepts the Vaishnava mantra or Vaishnava way of worshipping the deity, he is allowed to chant the pranava mantra. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord personally accepts that anyone, even one of a low species, can be elevated to the highest position and go back home, back to Godhead, simply if he worships properly. The prescribed rules, as stated here by Narada Muni, are that one should accept the mantra through a bona fide spiritual master and hear the mantra in the right ear. Not only should one chant or murmur the mantra, but in front of him he must have the deity or physical form of the Lord. Of course, when the Lord appears, it is no longer a physical form. For example, when an iron rod is made red hot in a fire, it is no longer iron, it is fire. Similarly, when we make a form of the Lord, whether of wood or stone or metal or jewels or paint, or even a form within the mind, it is bona fide, spiritual, transcendental form of the Lord. Not only must one receive the mantra from the bona fide spiritual master like Narada Muni or his representative in the disciplic succession, but one must chant the mantra. And not only must one chant, but he should also offer whatever foodstuff is available in his part of the world according to time and convenience. The method of worship, chanting the mantra, and preparing the forms of the Lord is not stereotyped, nor is it exactly the same everywhere. It is specifically mentioned in this verse that one should take consideration of the time, place, and available conveniences. Our Krishna consciousness movement is going on throughout the entire world, and we also install deities in different centers. Sometimes our Indian friends, puffed up with concocted notions, criticize. This has not been done, this has not been done. But they forget this instruction of Narada Muni to one of the greatest Vaishnavas, Dhruva Maharaj. One has to consider the particular time, country, and conveniences. What is convenient in India may not be convenient in the Western countries. Those who are not actually in the line of acharyas, who personally have knowledge of how to act in the role of acharya, unnecessarily criticize the activities of the ISKCON movement in countries outside of India. The fact is that such critics cannot do anything personally to spread Krishna consciousness. If someone does go and preach, taking all risks and allowing all considerations of time and place, it might be that there are changes in the manner of worship, but that is not at all faulty according to Shastra. Srimad Virara Gava Acharya, an Acharya in the disciplic succession of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, has remarked in his commentary that Chandalas, or conditioned souls who are born in lower than Shudra families, can also be initiated according to circumstances. The formalities may be slightly changed here and there to make them Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that his name should be heard in every nook and corner of the world. How is this possible unless one preaches everywhere? The cult of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Bhagavad Dharma, and he especially recommends Krishna Katha, or the cult of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. He recommends that every Indian, considering this task to be para upakar, or welfare activity, take the Lord's message to other residents of the world. Other residents of the world does not refer only to those who are exactly like the Indian Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, or like the caste Brahmanas, who claim to be Brahmanas because they were born in the families of Brahmanas. The principle that only Indians and Hindus should be brought into the Vaishnava cult is a mistaken idea. There should be propaganda to bring everyone to the Vaishnava cult. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant for this purpose. There is no bar for propagating the Krishna consciousness movement, even among people who are born in Chandala, Mlecha, or Yavana families. Even in India, this point has been enunciated by Srila Sanatana Goswami in his book, Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is Smriti, and is the authorized guide for Vaishnavas in their daily behavior. Sanatana Goswami says that as bell metal can turn to gold when mixed with mercury in a chemical process, so by the bona fide diksha or initiation method, anyone can become a Vaishnava. One should take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master coming in the disciplic succession, who is authorized by his predecessor spiritual master. This is called Diksha Vidhana. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Vipashritya, one should accept a spiritual master. By this process, the entire world can be converted to Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Caitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanang pavenebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ukam karoti vachalam pangum langaite girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Caitanya Ishwaram. Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 8th chapter, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. Translation: Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. This is the 12th syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. One should install the physical forms of the Lord, and with the chanting of the mantra, one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties of foodstuffs exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by authorities. But this should be done in consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences. We're hearing about the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, as a young boy, was not expected to embark on the quest of perfecting human life. Of course, as a young boy, he wanted to fulfill a material desire. Chatre, offended by his stepmother, he didn't take lightly that offense. She thinks that I should take birth in the next life in her womb to deserve to sit on my own father's lap. I'll show her. She's puffed up, thinking this kingdom of my father is something amazing. I will get a kingdom much greater than my father's. Not only my father's, but also my grandfather's. So he wanted something bigger than the universe. To talk about big material desires. We have our material desires, but I don't think any of us ever thought, I'd like to have like a universe of my own. In most cases, we don't even know how big the universe is. Is it even something more than the Earth planet? We can see the stars. To desire it all and more certainly was a huge material desire. So Dhruva, storming out, met his mother, the mother being the Adi Guru, the original teacher, to help her son. Said, my dear boy, I've heard that when people want something, want to fulfill a desire, they go to the forest to try and meet Lord Vishnu. So the boy thought, Eureka, I'll go to the forest. And charging out to the forest, by destiny's arrangement, he meets his spiritual master, Narada Muni. Of course, Dhruva didn't expect Narada Muni to be his guru. He simply wanted to find out where is Vishnu who can fulfill my desire. Narada Muni, trying to dissuade the boy, told him to go home, go and play. You're a young boy, what you doing in the forest? It's dangerous there. But Dhruva, he thought, if you don't have anything constructive to offer me, please, get out of the way. Move, Vaishnava, get out of the way. But Nard, he could see, this boy is determined, is serious. Sometimes people wonder, is there anything in the names that we get? I was given the name Sibusiso, which means nothing to you right now. In the Zulu language or the Siswati language, it means blessing. And growing up, I was nothing close to a blessing. In my confusion, sometimes I used to think, what were my parents thinking, giving me such a name? As I was tumbling down the hills of Maya. But in a name, sometimes, even though it may not be done with the Vedic method of consulting astrology, the parents are generally imbuing some type of blessing within the name. And Dhruva's name certainly was imbued his character of determination. When Narada saw that determination, that he was pointed, one mind, one pointed determination, Ekeha, then he saw, I can instruct this boy. And today's verse, actually we hear the mantra that was given to Dhruva, which all of us got to chant plenty of today. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. That if you chant this mantra like this, you don't even have to ask the devotees to repeat. It's just so imprinted in us that Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Like magic. We are getting the details of how one should honor this Dwadasa Akshara mantra, 12-syllable mantra. It is a mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. Om being the seed mantra, the pranava. And Krishna is known as Bhagavan, the all possessor of all opulences. And Vasudevaya, he is all-pervading. He is within everything. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam, Brahma says. Found even within all the atoms, the Lord is present in his full potency and in his personal feature. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada begins to analyze, especially take into consideration that the instruction of how to worship, although it is given in the scriptures with strictures, rules and regulations, one should install the physical forms, chant the mantra, offer flowers and fruits. Still, this should be done in consideration to Desha, Kala, and Patra, according to time, place, and conveniences, or inconveniences. Here's one extreme case. Prabhupada is instructing a disciple about preaching in the Middle East. And there was desert country. There's not enough fruits and veg to eat. So Srila Prabhupada says, for preaching's sake, if you have to eat, we won't mention it here. You can eat, but you must preach. So, of course, immediately, people would say, what a bogus guru. How can you instruct your disciple has come to take shelter of you that they must eat? The unthinkable. But Prabhupada is not necessarily teaching that this must be eaten, eating meat, fish or eggs, this is good. But he's underscoring the principle that to distribute the message of Godhead is a higher principle than considering your diet. And this certainly is not giving license that, well, Prabhupada once upon a time had said to somebody that if, and then we make it like our regulative principle. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, in the movement of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, first of all, we see that the caste brahmanas may say, and they may cite scripture, those who are not brahmanas should not be allowed to chant the pranava mantra. So it would make the Hare Krishna movement very quiet. No chanting of Om, no chanting certain of Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Agyana. No Om, if you are not born in a Brahmanical family of Brahmins. So that idea is not Caitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Caitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is even proven in the times of Dhruva Maharaj. The Dhruva Maharaj was a Kshatriya. And when he was instructed to chant Pranava mantra, he also felt, I'm a Kshatriya. This is for people trying to cultivate renunciation and equilibrium of mind. I'm hot-blooded Kshatriya. I don't want to control my mind right now. I certainly want to achieve some objectives, so Rajasic. But Narada Muni, no, he said, no problem. For what you are trying to achieve, to meet Lord Vishnu, then you have to come to the mode of goodness and go to the mode of pure goodness. And therefore that mantra was also allowed for Dhruva to chant. So Prabhupada says, here is a tacit proof that if a person accepts the Vaishnava mantra or Vaishnava way of worshipping the deity, he is allowed to chant the Pranava mantra. An interesting point, like in India, certainly in the Dham, the Gayatri mantra is heard everywhere in the shops. You know, it's like a top hit. It's always going on. In ISKCON, you have to wait until you are recommended for second initiation, and the spiritual master then gives you the mantra. It's a secret mantra given to you, and you chant it quietly. And we visit the Dham, where if we go by this Smarta Brahmana rules or the caste Brahmana rules, we are not qualified to chant Pranava mantra. And yet, it is always number one on the playlist. So we would hear it and you think, am I committing offense already, hearing it before taking the initiation? So a double standard, because Prabhupada is saying, if you are not yourself coming in parampara, you almost lose the right to speak on issues of worship. If you're not bona fide by good parampara and disciplic succession, then this system of caste brahmanism is a regrettable situation. And the Hare Krishna movement rejects that based on the teachings of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna there says, but by guna karma vibhagasa, that one is understood and qualified and assessed based on their qualities and activities, not based on their birth. Then next comes a discussion about the deity. Certainly within the Abrahamic religions, this idea of deity is an abomination. How do you feel about that? You know, you are involved in an abomination. Yes, idol worshippers, idolaters, this is considered. The Christian missionaries, when they were in India, certainly would come into the homes of Hindus of different sorts who have some sort of deity and say, is this your God? They're pointing whatever deity was there on the altar. Yes, yes, this is our God. They say, this is not God. You're simply worshipping stone or wood. This is dead matter. How have you become so lost? They would bring a bucket of water, and you can see the mood in which they were propagating. They would grab the deity and dunk it into the water and say, just see, your God is drowning and he cannot save himself. And those of simple mind, if they were not shastrically sound, understanding Acha Vigraha, what is the worship of the Muti, were convinced, oh yes, Mr. Christian, you're right. I've been, unfortunately, worshipping a stone. Look, he cannot swim out of the bucket. It's like under the belt tactics. As we say, by hook or by crook. So in the game of increasing the numbers of followers in the religious schools, so much has gone on. So, Srila Prabhupada is saying here, receiving the mantra, bona fide guru is needed. That means disciplic succession is there. Then the procedure was that the guru would utter the mantra into the right ear. And giving the mantra must be done before the deity of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada writes here, in front of him he must have the deity or physical form of the Lord. Then immediately says, of course, when the Lord appears, it is no longer a physical form. So what's Prabhupada saying? Are we seeing the physical form of Radha Govinda? Yes, no? Yes. No. Okay, is it like a vote is needed here? We're seeing the physical form, there's a yes, there's also, we're not seeing the physical form. So we are entering the philosophy of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, which is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. That these two are happening simultaneously. That what is perceived as the physical form, certainly, when you are seeing just with this ball of flesh, you are seeing marble. But if you are seeing with devotion, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, then you are seeing Yam Shama Sundam Achintya Guna Sarupam. The inconceivable Lord is seen through the eye of devotion, of bhakti. And by that vision, immediately there is no matter that is being perceived. The Lord is always transcendentally, personally present. So Srila Prabhupada said, are we so foolish that we are spending so much money and time worshipping stone? So this argument cannot be won when it's being argued with people on two different platforms. The Vaishnava is speaking on the transcendental platform, the platform of devotion, and the materialist, the mundana, is speaking on the material platform. Certainly is dealing with stone. So Prabhupada reveals in this purport the supreme inclusivity of the process of bhakti. Because there's a warning, and we should assess ourselves according to how we identify, that we do not become born-again Hare Krishnas. With all respect to born-agains, wherever they may be, in whatever culture. It means when we become too concerned with the rules and regulations simply for the sake of following them and without understanding the spirit of the rules and regulations. One aspect is that the culture of Sanatan Dharma certainly can be seen and much more preserved in India. And therefore, one who takes birth there by no extra effort of their own are conditioned into that culture. And others who are born in other parts of the world are conditioned according to the ways of the people in those lands. But if one mistakes the process of bhakti to be a cultural product, then one may unwittingly become a propagator that the vehicle of Sanatana Dharma is now the goal of Sanatana Dharma. That if people do not externally present in the culture of India, then they become disqualified for bhakti. Are there some takers for this point? So we have to analyze. And then there's also those who come into bhakti and having appreciated the change of culture and experiencing the supporting energy of the culture towards their bhakti aspirations, begin to think that actually the culture itself is the end. And they start to demonize persons coming from other cultures. They start to gatekeep bhakti. And currently, within our movement, we've seen different waves. Srila Prabhupada, understanding the obstacle of identifying too much with the land of birth and the cultures therein, his efforts to give transcendental bhakti in India were thwarted. They were not going anywhere. And so everybody there, we know, I know, Swamiji, I know. All people are attached to how they've grown up in terms of their worship. So he came to America, to this New York City. And at that time, the Bowery, the Lower East Side was the place of those who were not even accepted in the culture of the US. They dropped out of that culture. And he began his movement there. How unbonafide was Srila Prabhupada in the eyes of such critics who think that by birth one is given access to bhakti. But Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavihastini Sunichaiva Sopakecha Pandita Samadhashina. The actual Pandit, he sees the spark of life. He sees equally all living beings because he's not seeing the dress, the embodiment. He's seeing the spiritual spark. Mama Vangso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna has claimed all living beings to be his parts and parcels. And so everyone is qualified to begin Krishna consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna even states, because sometimes there's notions, you may have heard at some period of human society that women had no souls. Ever heard such a crazy thing? Yes, there was a time that women have no souls. So the women were excluded in so many aspects of human progress and sort of bona fide by the current ethos of those religions at the time. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, understanding that there may be these remnants of thinking in people. They may think, oh, those who have lower birth, Shudras, or those who are women, they cannot take part in bhakti. Krishna says, no. Mamhi, yapasritya, ye pisyu, papayonaya. Even though there may be some lower birth according to Varnashram consideration, cultural consideration, everyone can approach me in devotional service. Everyone can take part in devotional service. This 932 has a beautiful purport. I wanted us to hear the words of our founder Acharya, that we don't paraphrase and water down his words. Srila Prabhupada says, "It is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service there is no distinction between the lower and higher classes of people. In the material conception of life, there are such divisions. But for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, they are not. Everyone is eligible for the supreme destination." And then within that, he quotes also the famous Kirata, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abira, Shumba, Yavana, members of the Kasa races and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Due to his being the supreme power, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So in summary, regardless of one's position, just like it is said, bell metal by some contact with mercury and the right alchemic process can be turned into gold. Any living being, no matter their position, their race, their culture, their gender, their financial standing, has the potential to reawaken their Krishna consciousness. Therefore, para-upakara means the duty of all of us to do the welfare work of distributing that alchemic process of transforming everyone to their original consciousness of servant of Krishna should be distributed everywhere. Lord Chaitanya began his mission in India, therefore Brahmite. He said, those who are born Manusya Jai Mahayar, born in India, Bharata Bhumite, because of their birth there where the culture and the knowledge of bhakti was available, it should be their duty to perfect their lives and distribute everywhere. So our business is to distribute the all-inclusive process of bhakti. That we should not create more rules and regulations that stand in the way for people approaching. There's always this appetite to increase the rules. Hari Bhakti Vilas was mentioned here. It's a very nice book, but if you get in too much into Hari Bhakti Vilas, then it becomes a non-starter. So many rules and regs. Srila Prabhupada has devised just the right dose of rules and regulations for the people of Kali Yuga to enter bhakti and to make progress. Let us not try to outdo the founder Acharya. Let us try to follow his process and allow people to come as they are to the process of bhakti and let the process of Krishna consciousness do the transformation. What is being transformed is the heart of its sinful inclinations, its misguided aspirations. And then the externals will adjust accordingly. But if we lead with the externals, we lead with the do nots, people get frustrated before even doing something which is positive. So we'll just end by remembering today is the disappearance day of Mukunda Dat and Kolavecha Shrida. Kolavecha Shrida, very poor. He didn't have much, but he was wealthy in love of Krishna, in his attachment to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Mukunda Dat, he was born in Chattargram, 20 miles from where Pundarik Vidyanidhi was born. His adhika is that he could sing. His singing, he said, could melt stones. Lord Chaitanya appreciated his association because they were actually schoolmates, classmates. Can you imagine being Mahaprabhu's classmate? And so they would always also back and forth philosophical discussions. And he served him by reciting Shastra, especially after he came back from Gaya. Mahaprabhu was now changed. He was now soft as a Vaishnava and he was asking, where is Krishna, where is Krishna? Mukunda Dat was intimate associate. One little anecdote is Mahaprabhu, when he manifested his Mahaprakash Leela, he was calling everybody, giving benedictions, and he didn't call Mukunda. And Srivas Thakur said, my Lord, if Mukunda Dat has done something wrong, then certainly punish your servant, but don't neglect him. Lord Chaitanya said, I don't care for this rascal. He called him, he uses this straw and stick philosophy. Straw you put in your mouth and you're humble. Amongst the Vaishnavas, you seem to be following Trinada Pisuni Chaina. Stick is that he goes and hears the philosophy of Mayavad. He's listening to the classes of Advaitacharya, who was also on a campaign to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there he's agreeing, yes, yes, yes. So beating me with a stick, when you accept the Mayavad philosophy or hear it, it's like beating the Lord with a stick. So he's offensive, I don't want to see him. My Lord, when will he get his mercy? Not in a million lives, he will get after a million lifetimes. Mukunda Dat was outside, he heard this. He was already lamenting, crying. But when he heard that after millions of lifetimes he will see the Lord, I will see him, I will see him, I will see him. He was celebrating in ecstasy. Mahaprabhu was touched. Just see. Call Mukunda, bring him in. You have such faith in my words that although I banished you, as soon as you heard that in millions of lifetimes you'll have my association, you took that word as gospel. And he said, in fact, it was my joke with you. I am purchased by your devotion. You are always my associate. In every lifetime, you will get the chance to sing my glories. So, we see that by devotion, the Lord is purchased. And so, our product is to awaken devotional service. And Dhruva Maharaj here is getting the process from Narada Muni. And we'll see that by following the process, he gets the result. Even though externally he seems most disqualified, 5-year-old kid. Self-realization for 5-year-olds seems like abuse. Why are you forcing these children to follow sadhana? But Kshatriya boy also angry, big material desire. All disqualifications, but by meeting bona fide guru, following the bona fide process, we will see that he also gets the result. So it's a science. Grancha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.